The International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants Thursday against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his former defense minister, and the military chief for Hamas. The warrants accuse the Israeli leaders of using starvation as a method of warfare in Gaza. The court also accused Hamas official Mohammed Deif of committing crimes against humanity on October 7, 2023. Israel says it killed Deif in August, but the court could not confirm his death. The White House National Security Council released a statement saying, quote, the United States fundamentally rejects the court's decision to issue arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials. We remain deeply concerned by the prosecutor's rush to seek arrest warrants and the troubling process errors that led to this decision. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer has more from Tel Aviv.
Practically speaking, these arrest warrants could limit the Prime Minister and former Defense Minister's travel arrangements. They stand to be arrested if they set foot in any of the 128 countries that are members of the court. And that does include some U.S. allies, the UK, France, Germany, and Japan. But it does not include the U.S. itself or Israel. The arrest warrants will also bolster Israel's critics around the world who see the government's military operations against Hamas as amounting to collective punishment against Palestinian civilians in Gaza. And they may also further damage Israel's reputation internationally. In the U.S., a National Security Council spokesman a short time ago said that the United States fundamentally rejects the court's decision to issue these arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials and referred to what it called troubling process orders. The council said it was discussing next steps with Israel, so we're waiting to hear what those will be. The warrants may increase international pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu to, say, improve the delivery of humanitarian aid in Gaza, something that is under consideration now as aid agencies have been ringing the alarm bells. There's just not enough aid making it into Gaza now, and some of the trucks that do get across are being looted. But inside Israel, these warrants may actually shore up Netanyahu's popularity, as Israelis will reject what they see as judgmental meddling in their affairs from abroad. Back to you.
Elizabeth Palmer, thank you. For more analysis, John Alterman joins us now. He's a senior vice president and director of the Middle East program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. John, I'm glad you're here. I want to dig into some of what Liz Palmer said. I wonder if you can elaborate on her point about potential damage to Israel's reputation. How could these warrants hurt Israel's standing in the international community?
Well, there's certainly a lot of countries, a lot of people in a lot of countries who think that Israel has been acting horribly in this war, and they can say, look, here is an international court that agrees with us that what Netanyahu has been doing is criminal and should be prosecuted. And for people who are critics of Israel, this validates their criticism. For people who support Israel, this validates the Israeli criticism that everybody's biased against Israel, that there's profound anti-Semitism in international institutions. And it really polarizes the situation rather than changes the situation in a constructive way.
Well, what about inside Israel? I mean, do you see it having the opposite effect inside with these warrants helping Netanyahu's popularity and cachet among his own people?
There are certainly his political opponents who say this is a mark on the morality of Israel. But for many of his political supporters, and I think a lot of Israelis who are sort of feeling in the middle, they are feeling isolated in the world. They feel the world didn't care that 1,200 Israelis were massacred on October 7th, 2023, and that there's the double standard where Jewish lives are cheap, and when Jews protect themselves, the world rises up, but didn't rise up during the Holocaust and World War II. So I think for a lot of Israelis, there really is this sense of isolation, and the ICC arrest warrants add to that isolation and make Israelis rally around Netanyahu to say we have to defend ourselves.
The U.S. is sticking by Israel. Could the U.S. face backlash from any allies for criticizing the International Criminal Court?
I've certainly spoken to people who said the U.S. has to be careful. The U.S. Has to worry about seeming like it's really out of the mainstream. The U.S. certainly cast the veto in the UN Security Council about a ceasefire resolution yesterday because it didn't require the return of hostages. So I think the Biden administration is certainly comfortable with it. The Trump administration even more comfortable standing by Israel against international criticism. Whether that will lead to greater global isolation as a consequence is something we're going to have to see. But it seems to me that standing by Israel at this moment, rather than a break with the future, is probably foreshadowing what will be even more of a future going forward.
Israel says that it killed the Hamas military leader in July, but the court wasn't able to confirm that. Is it a misstep for the court if no living Hamas officials are being charged?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure that they could really find somebody responsible at this point, because Israel has done so many operations against so many leaders of Hamas and other organizations that target Israel. Their complaint is really not that it needs to be even-handed. Their complaint is that they are fighting for their survival. That puts them in a different situation, and is unfair to criticize them for defending themselves against people who want to eradicate them. Of course, the charge that the other side wants to eradicate us is true on both the Palestinian side and the Israeli side, which is one of the reasons this is such a difficult conflict, and one that's gotten much more difficult to solve.
John Alterman, thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.